6 Common Text Structures in Middle School, a Close Reading and Text-Dependent Analysis Curriculum. Copyright Luke Sullivan, 2020. Sequence. This series examines 6 common nonfiction text structures: description, sequence, chronological, compare and contrast, cause and effect, problem and solution. Text structure is the term used to describe the way information is organized in a passage. The way the information is organized helps our brain understand which bit of information is most important and how to categorize the rest. Think of it as a flowchart. Today's text structure is sequence, or the order that things happen. This structure could be used to explain how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a history of the Battle of Germantown. The lesson begins with a close reading of the text, a marking up of the text, text-dependent questions, completion of a graphic organizer, and finally the writing of a text-dependent analysis essay. Today's text is How to Identify and Manage Emotions, written by Set2Go, with a Lexile level of 1100. Analysis is the detailed examination of the elements or structure of text by breaking it into its component parts to uncover interrelationships in order to draw a conclusion. Thompson and Lyons, 2017. The student identifies 2 important components of the text, examines their interrelationships closely, and makes a conclusion, often about the author's message. It looks something like this. Today's prompt. Authors often develop their central idea in a way to teach the reader. Write an essay analyzing how the author develops the idea that emotional awareness can be learned and practiced. Use details from the text to support your answer. The student begins by identifying the 2 elements required by the prompt: text structure, how the author develops, and central idea, emotional awareness can be learned and practiced. The prompt is asking the student to examine the interrelationship between these 2 elements and make a conclusion. It looks like this. The reading technique we'll use is called close reading. This technique stresses determining a purpose before reading. You see what you look for. It also stresses writing notes and descriptors in the text. Studies show that these writings better enable students to identify and discuss text elements. First read. What's the gist? The purpose for this first read is to get an understanding of the meaning of the text. What's the gist? What's the topic and what are the big ideas? Before reading, look for bolded words. The author thinks these words are important to support the understanding of the text. Look for subheadings. They usually identify the way the text is organized. Are there any graphic elements, charts, photographs, maps? As you read, stop at the end of each paragraph. Write a word or phrase to summarize the information in the paragraph. When you're done with the text, collect all of the phrases and write a summary in your notebook. This will enable the reader to determine the text structure used. Studies show discussion with visible products, like a notebook, better enables students to understand the information and identify structural elements of the text. Now answer the following questions in your notebook. All help understand the what of the text. The second read. How is it written? Students read the text for a second time. Identify the elements of the informational text structure and write them in the left margin of the text. Make any observations in your notebook about how the author used the writing craft. Create a flowchart of the major steps in how to identify and manage your emotions. It could look like this. The third read is where you decide which text you'll use to support the points you want to make in your essay. You'll be completing a graphic organizer to gather this information. One way is to start with questions that address the interrelationships between the 2 elements. What is the central idea of the text? Why is it important to present this idea in a sequence text structure? Why is this an appropriate text for middle school students? Hunt through the text, finding examples that support the points you want to make. They should address the interrelationships between the two elements. At this point, the student will complete a graphic organizer of her ideas. She'll need to identify the author's words that she'll use. Write them in the first column of the graphic organizer. In the second column, explain how the words are related to the sequence text structure. In the third column, explain why the author used these ideas to advance the essay. For example, I could put these authors' words in the first column. In the second column, I can make the inference that this is the author's attention-grabbing beginning because this statement is outrageous and it's located in the traditional spot for an attention-grabbing beginning. In the third column, I can explain that the author used this phrase to introduce the topic and hint at the central idea, that emotional awareness can be learned and practiced. This also foreshadows the use of a sequencing text structure. Complete your graphic organizer with phrases that connect to the central idea, the inferences you've made, and explanations why the author used these words. The last step of the work is to use the information from your graphic organizer to write an essay answering the TDA question. Go back and look at your prompt. The first sentence of your essay uses words from the prompt and serves as a simple assertion. Notice we actually use the words from the prompt in the opening sentence. Sometimes it's appropriate to include one of the conclusions you've made about the essay. Look at your graphic organizer. The information from each row of the graphic organizer is used to complete a big idea paragraph. Younger writers will organize the paragraph beginning with the quotation, developed with the text structure inference, and then explained how it serves the author's purpose. It could look like this. Older writers are more likely to begin the paragraph with the explanation before introducing the author's words and inference. The last sentence of this kind of paragraph will still connect back to the overarching theme of the essay. It could look like this. The last section of the essay is the conclusion. A younger writer will repeat the information from the opening paragraph. An older writer will also echo the opening, but will introduce a something to think about after the essay is done. This can take the form of a "what if this didn't happen?" or by introducing an idea related to one of the text elements. The student now reads her completed essay 2 times, each with a different purpose. The purpose for the first read is to ensure that her big idea paragraphs address the interrelationships between the sequence text structure and the central idea. The purpose for the second read is to examine grammar and writing conventions. Good job!